Hey everyone, welcome to Strong Feet Project. This is episode 25. We're here at Irobaywa village, I think it is. It's day 6 of the trek. It's been a long 6 days. So you can hear a dog chasing some chickens. I'll just give you a bit of a background. We're camping down there at the moment. So after Alola, we pretty much hit a big steep climb. That was at the end of day 2. And then we had a bit of a peak and then had some lunch, and then we headed up to Templeton's Crossing 2. And then we had a huge steep climb to Templeton Crossing 1, which is where we ended up having some lunch. And then we stayed we actually stayed at Templeton Crossing 2, and then we had a huge decline, then even huger incline up Mount Bellamy, which is a huge friggin' mountain. So day 4, leading into day 4, it was pretty big going up Mount Bellamy. Then I hit a bit of plateau-ish, a couple of undulating hills, and then we had to hit up over, which is called the Gap, and we ended up having some lunch at Najuri Airfield. And then it was a huge friggin' decline. It was really huge. Some of the steep hills are just so steep. It was pretty much a vertical climb or vertical decline. And I was just thankful that I had my poles as well as my Porter Ivan there. He saved my butt a fair few times. And then as we headed down, like I said, we stayed at Najuri Airfield, which is pretty much, it was an overgrown airfield, a little tiny village there. They had a few refreshments. And then we had another decline after that, down to a Foji River. We passed the Foji 2, and then we ended up staying at a Foji 1, which was, but to get to Foji 2 you had to go up a very, very steep incline, and then it was a very quick steep decline, and we stayed at the base of that. Coming up to day 4 up until day 6, I'm actually sleeping a little. I'm getting comfortable a little bit more at night time, and I've been staying dry, which is awesome. It has been raining at night. Day 5 and 6, this is day 6, it started raining through the day, which is a little bit, quite cooling because it's quite humid, but when you're coming up and down some of those steep hills, you're pretty much sliding everywhere. And there's been a couple of big stacks, no injuries thankfully, but it's really slippery. You could easily slip a couple of meters or more, and you're pretty much walking on some of the ledges of the mountains that are probably 30 centimeters in width, and then you've got pretty much a huge drop on the side. So you've got to be really careful, especially when you're going to climb up on an angle on some of these. But after day 4, after we slept on that night, we headed up another steep area called Missionary Ridge, where we sat down and had a bit of a debrief about some of the battles that happened up to that point with Australia versus Japanese troops. And then we headed up to Brigade Hill. It was a very special moment. We had a bit of a ceremony up there with Australian and Papua New Guinean national anthems, and that was quite emotional. There was a lot of memorial type tributes that the Papua New Guineans had set up for the Australian troops, which were initially, I think, buried there, and then they got moved later on. After Brigade Hill, it was a very, very steep decline. We passed, actually, I can't remember how long it took. It took probably about an hour and a half, 2 hour decline, if not more. We stopped at the Minari airfield for lunch, and then we kind of had to head up through Minari, which I think, we had lunch around there, and then we headed up another very steep. It was coming up to day 5, my legs were getting really heavy and really tiring, and coming up, especially some of those inclines are right after lunch, so everyone's like rested for a good hour, and then having to come up this big slog. It was quite tough. And then again, it was another very steep decline. Now, like I said, day 5 it started raining, so it made it even worse. So like I said, thankfully my poles and Ivan It really saved my butt, and I was just very cautious. It was very mentally draining coming down those really steep declines, because you're just having to think about every single step, and having to slip and slide and try and recover. Yeah, so after we got down that hill, we kind of, we stayed at, where did we stay? We stayed at this place, I think they called it the Swamps. It was another group was there too that had just started, that are going in the opposite direction to us. So I kind of feel sorry for them. But essentially, you know, we slept right on the creek line, and everyone, like, that's pretty much where you washed, you know, your clothes and yourself. And up further, you would go up further to try and refill your drink bottles. We literally use creeks and stuff like that to refill our drink bottles. Obviously you'll purify it and make sure that all that's clean in that regard, so it was easier. You don't end up with any gastro issues. And then we had to actually pass through, coming up into day 6 today, we actually had to pass through some more swampland, and the mud was really thick and really slippery and would be almost ankle deep. And then we had to come up through this crossing, which we thought they would have to actually go through, which was pretty much would have been up to my like a waist height, but thankfully there was some logs down that some of the boys helped us across. The porters are really lovely. They would really you know, put you first kind of thing, which is interesting. And then yeah, so we had about half an hour of that, and then it was about 2 hours on this very steep incline. This is when it started raining again. And like I said, you'll be climbing up vertical, and you'll have to climb up through some tree roots. Like, there's lots of tree roots everywhere. I mean, lots of tree roots. And it's actually called the 9 False Peaks. So you'd think that you hit that peak, and then you look up and there's another friggin' hill, and there was 9 of them before you reach the top. And we actually stopped and had some was it lunch? No, morning tea, and we thought we reached the peak, and then they're like, no, we have like another hour and a half. I'm like, holy crap. So then we had to keep climbing, and then we had some lunch later on, and then we pretty much had 2.5 downhill, which was even worse with the rain. Which, yeah, I just took it steady. I was near the end of the pack for this, and I was just taking it so steady. Thankfully I didn't have any big stacks in the mud. I had one on a couple of the tree roots. But some people got muddy. My boots got really like swamped with mud. And that comes into where we are today. So we had to climb up after that massive decline, and we then had to do a really big incline, which was brutal, to where we are today. So we passed Irrabaywa Bridge, and then we're actually at the village now. So we had a big incline and a very steep decline, and that was brutal up until this point. And yeah, that's it. So it's day 6. Day 7 tomorrow, I think, is another 6 to 8 hour trek. And then on the Saturday, we've only got 1 hour to Owen's Corner, where we'll probably do a bit of a ceremony and etc. And then we'll head back to the hotel and ready for our flight home on Sunday. Anyways, hope you're enjoying the episodes of Papua New Guinea Kokoda Track. And yeah, it's brutal. If you're thinking about doing it, it's brutal. But it's a good experience. But we'll see what happens when I finish. See you guys. Bye.